Welcome to our channel History of Coins, where we explore the hidden gems of numismatics. In today's video, we're diving into the fascinating world of rare quarter-dollar coins, cause some of these coins hold an incredible history, and some are worth millions. So today, we are gonna uncover the rarest varieties and their values. So make sure to watch the complete video and find out if you have one of these. Now let's continue our today's video. Top 1 today, we're diving into the world of American currency to uncover one of the most fascinating coins in circulation, the 1965 Washington quarter dollar. Now, you might be thinking, a 1965 quarter? That sounds pretty ordinary, right? Well, don't let its everyday appearance fool you. Because behind that simple silver face lies a world of mystery, history, and for a lucky few, serious money. Let's take a closer look at what makes this quarter so special. First, a little background. The Washington quarter has been a part of American pockets since 1932, honoring the nation's first president, George Washington. But something major happened in 1965 that forever changed the way quarters were made. And that's where things get really interesting. Before 1965, quarters were made of 90% silver. But due to rising silver prices and a national coin shortage, the U.S. Mint made a game-changing decision. Starting that year, they removed silver from quarters entirely, switching to a copper-nickel clad composition. It marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new one. But with that transition came confusion, and with confusion came opportunity for rare mistakes and valuable coins. You see, during this shift, a small number of 1,965 quarters were mistakenly struck on silver planchets, blank coin discs meant for the previous year's silver quarters. These error coins weren't supposed to exist, but a few slipped through the cracks. And now, decades later, they've become some of the most sought-after pieces in modern numismatics. Collectors are constantly searching for these elusive silver 1965 quarters. They look almost identical to the regular ones, but with a keen eye and a little knowledge, you can spot the difference. A genuine silver quarter will have a solid silver-colored edge, without the visible copper strip seen in standard clad coins. If you drop it, the sound will be sharper and more ringing. That's the music of money, my friends. But that's not the only kind of rare 1965 quarter that exists. Some coins from that year were struck with off-center designs, double dies, or other unusual minting errors. These variations might seem small, but to collectors, they mean everything. Every odd detail tells a story, a glitch in the system, a moment in minting history, and sometimes a ticket to big rewards. And here's the kicker. It's not just about errors. Condition matters. Most 1965 quarters were used daily, tossed around in pockets, dropped in vending machines, scraped in wallets, and worn down by time. But if you happen to find one in uncirculated, mint state condition, with sharp details, brilliant luster, and no signs of wear, its value skyrockets. Combine that pristine state with a rare error like being struck on a silver planchet. Now you're talking about a coin that collectors would battle over. So imagine this. You're sifting through an old coin jar, or maybe flipping through a forgotten roll of quarters from the bank. Your hands shake a little as you spot a 1965 quarter with a smooth silver edge, or one with a double die feature. You take a closer look. Your heart races. Could this be the one? And here comes the moment you've been waiting for, a verified 1965 Washington quarter with one of these rare minting errors, especially one struck on a silver planchet and kept in exceptional condition, has been known to sell for as much as $79,000. That's right. A simple quarter, worth just 25 cents at the register, could end up being worth $79,000 to the right collector. So, next time you get change back at the store, or dig through that old jar of coins in the attic, don't rush. Take a moment. Look closely, because you never know when you might be holding a tiny piece of history or your next big payday. Top 2, we're about to unlock the secrets of a coin that's been in plain sight for decades, the 1971 Washington quarter. You may have held one in your hand and never thought twice, but after today, you'll never look at this coin the same way again. The Washington quarter is one of the most iconic coins in American currency. It's been around since 1932, minted to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington himself. Over the years, millions, no, billions of these quarters have passed through cash registers, vending machines, gas stations, and our very own coin jars. But once in a while, among those billions, something rare slips through. And those are the coins we live to find. So why is the 1971 Washington quarter so special? Let's go back in time for a moment. In the early 1970s, the United States Mint was adjusting to changes in coin production. Gone were the days of silver quarters. Since 1965, quarters had been made of a copper-nickel clad composition. But during that transition, errors happened. And where there are errors, there is value. The 1971 quarter is especially fascinating because it's a year filled with hidden gems, coins that, due to minting mistakes or unexpected conditions, have become extremely desirable to collectors. Imagine a quarter that looks ordinary at first glance, but under a magnifying glass, or even just a good light, reveals a tiny flaw, a rare feature, or a forgotten detail that makes it incredibly rare. One of the most sought-after types is the quarter struck on a wrong planchet, a blank intended for a different coin. In 1971, a few quarters were mistakenly struck on planchets meant for pennies, nickels, or even foreign coins. These errors are rare, accidental, and incredibly valuable. They're the result of a minting misstep, but to collectors, they're masterpieces. Another exciting variety is the double die. This happens when the coin design is stamped twice, slightly off from the first strike. The result? Doubled letters, distorted numbers, or a ghost-like image on the coin's surface. These quirks might seem minor to some, but to collectors, they're golden opportunities. A 1971 Washington quarter with a strong double die error, especially if it's on the obverse side where Washington's portrait is featured, can command major attention and major cash. Then we have off-center strikes. This happens when the blank isn't perfectly aligned during the minting process, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing or shifted dramatically. These off-center quarters are visually stunning, and the more dramatic the misalignment, the more valuable they become. But the magic doesn't stop with errors alone. Even a regular 1971 quarter can be worth much more than face value if it's in pristine, uncirculated condition. A coin that has never seen the inside of a pocket, never been scratched by a set of keys, and never touched by bare hands? That's the kind of quality that collectors crave. Coins graded at the highest levels by professional grading services can fetch eye-popping prices at auctions, and what makes it even more exciting is that these rare quarters are out there, in old collections, in forgotten coin jars, even in loose change from the store. Most people won't spot them, but the trained eye might. That's what makes coin collecting such a thrilling adventure. It's the mystery, the hunt, the chance that something remarkable is hiding in the most unexpected place. So now the big question. What is a rare 1971 Washington quarter actually worth? Well, if you're lucky enough to find one of these rare errors, especially a quarter struck on the wrong planchet, or a perfect double die, or a flawless uncirculated example, you're not just looking at a collector's item. You're looking at a treasure, a piece of metal with history, beauty, and value far beyond its size. And here's the moment you've all been waiting for. A single 1971 Washington quarter, with the right combination of rarity, error, and exceptional condition, has sold for as much as $76,000. Yes, you heard that right, $76,000. Just imagine, a coin worth 25 cents turning into a small fortune. That's the kind of story that keeps collectors digging, searching, and dreaming. Because you never know when your next lucky find might change everything. So before you toss that old change in a Coinstar machine, take a second look. That 1971 quarter rattling around in your drawer? It might be worth more than you ever imagined. Top 3, we're going to take a deep dive into one of the most overlooked but potentially valuable coins in American pockets, the 1973 Washington quarter dollar. Now, at first glance, this coin may seem like just another everyday quarter. It's something you might find between the couch cushions or get back as change at the grocery store. But what if I told you that one of these ordinary-looking coins could actually be hiding an extraordinary secret, a secret that could make it worth tens of thousands of dollars? That's right. The 1973 quarter may not be made of silver. It may not be from the 1800s, and it might not look special to the untrained eye. But the truth is, some of these coins are far more than meets the eye. Let's rewind the clock for a moment and set the stage. By 1973, the United States Mint had been producing quarters with a copper-nickel clad composition for nearly a decade. Silver had been removed from regular circulating quarters after 1964, and the Mint was running at full speed to keep up with America's demand for coins. But whenever millions of coins are struck, mistakes are bound to happen. And for collectors, those mistakes are where things get very interesting. The 1973 Washington quarter was struck at multiple U.S. Mint locations, including Philadelphia and Denver, and for the most part, these coins served their purpose. They circulated, they bought gumballs and paid tolls, and they were tossed into jars. But a small number of these coins were born different. Some of them carry minting errors so rare that they've become prized possessions among collectors. Let's talk about a few of the features that can make a 1973 quarter rare and valuable. First, we have coins that were accidentally struck on the wrong planchet. That means instead of being struck on the typical copper-nickel quarter blank, some 1973 quarters were mistakenly minted on planchets meant for other coins, such as a penny or even a foreign denomination. These errors are extremely rare and easy to miss unless you know what to look for. They may appear slightly smaller or lighter than a normal quarter. And if you find one, you're holding a mistake that was never supposed to happen, and that's what collectors pay big money for. Next, let's talk about double die errors. This happens when the coin is struck twice with a slight misalignment, causing elements of the design, such as the date, the words Liberty, or In God We Trust, to appear doubled. The effect might be subtle, but for coin experts, it's like striking gold. A clear double die error can dramatically increase the value of the coin, especially if the doubling is bold and easily visible without magnification. Another fascinating variation is the off-center strike. When the blank isn't perfectly aligned in the minting press, the result is a coin where the design is shifted off-center. These coins look dramatically different and are immediately noticeable. The more off-center the design, and the more readable the date, the higher the value. A well-preserved, off-center 1973 quarter can easily turn heads at an auction. But what about the coins that have no errors at all? Are they worth anything? The answer is absolutely yes, if they are in mint condition. We're talking about coins that have never been circulated, never been scratched, and still have their original luster. These are known as uncirculated or mint state coins, and they are graded on a scale from 1 to 70. A coin that receives a grade of MS 67 or higher is exceptionally rare and can sell for thousands, even without any minting error. So what's the lesson here? The 1973 Washington quarter is a perfect example of why collectors keep looking. It's a coin that seems common, but under the right circumstances, with a rare error or preserved in pristine condition, it transforms into a valuable artifact of American history. Now, here comes the part you've all been waiting for. If you're lucky enough to find a 1973 Washington quarter with one of these rare errors, or one in near-perfect, uncirculated condition, then you may be holding more than just a piece of change. You may be holding a hidden treasure, because one of these rare 1973 Washington quarters, verified and authenticated by experts, has been valued at as much as $73,000. Yes, you heard that right. $73,000. A single coin, smaller than a cookie and lighter than your car keys, could be worth more than a luxury car or even a college education. It's the thrill of the hunt, the beauty of discovery, and the power of history wrapped into one tiny piece of metal. So go check those jars. Look through those old rolls of coins. You never know, that worn-out quarter you almost spent might just be your winning ticket. Top 4, we're talking about a very specific and surprisingly valuable coin. The 1981 Washington quarter dollar. At first glance, the 1981 quarter looks like any other coin you'd find in your loose change. It's a classic, featuring the bold and determined profile of George Washington on the front, the proud eagle spreading its wings on the back, and that familiar ring of copper and nickel around its edge. You've probably seen thousands of these. Maybe you even have one in your wallet right now. But here's the twist. Not all 1981 quarters are created equal. In fact, a small number of these seemingly ordinary coins are anything but. And if you're lucky enough to spot one of the rare ones, you could be looking at a serious payday. Let's rewind a bit and understand the bigger picture. The early 1980s were a time of transition and tension for the U.S. Mint. Inflation was rising, coin demand was shifting, and precision was more important than ever. But even in a high-tech, tightly controlled minting facility, mistakes happen, and those mistakes are exactly what collectors dream about. The 1981 Washington quarter was minted at 3 different U.S. mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. While most of these coins were struck for circulation, some were specially made for collectors, particularly those from the San Francisco Mint, which produced proof coins. And that's where things start to get interesting. Some of the most valuable 1981 quarters are coins that were supposed to be perfect, but aren't. Proof coins are meant to be flawless, struck multiple times on polished planchets with extra care to ensure high detail and mirror-like surfaces. So when something goes wrong, when there's a die crack, a double strike, or even a faint mint mark error, the result is a coin that breaks the rules. And those rule breakers can be worth a fortune. Then there's the legendary off-metal strike, a 1981 quarter that was accidentally struck on the wrong type of blank. Imagine a quarter that was meant to be copper-nickel, but was instead struck on a planchet intended for a dime or a foreign coin. These kinds of errors are incredibly rare, and because they're virtually impossible to duplicate, their value skyrockets. But that's not all. One of the most fascinating types of errors for 1981 quarters is the double die, when the die used to stamp the coin was engraved twice with a slight misalignment. This causes noticeable doubling in the design, especially in the date, the letters, or Washington's profile. If you've ever seen one of these up close, it's like looking at a ghost image, and to collectors, it's a beautiful mistake worth chasing. And of course, we can't forget about the holy grail for many collectors: condition. A 1981 Washington quarter in mint state condition, never circulated, with full original luster and no signs of wear, becomes an instant standout, especially if it's been graded highly by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. We're talking MS 67 or higher. Those kinds of coins are true survivors, and they demand top dollar in the collecting world. Now imagine combining a rare minting error, like a double die or off-metal strike, with a pristine condition. That's when the value truly explodes. That here's the kicker. People often think that only ancient coins or silver coins are worth big money. But that's not true. Modern coins, even from the 1980s, can become incredibly valuable under the right conditions. And the 1981 Washington quarter is proof of that. So, what's the real value of one of these rare gems? Well, if you happen to come across a 1981 Washington quarter that features a rare minting error, or one that's been preserved in uncirculated, top-graded condition, you're not just holding a quarter. You're holding a collector's dream. And yes, in one remarkable case, a rare 1981 Washington quarter sold for as much as $70,000. That's right, $70,000. For a coin that most people would spend without a second thought. Just let that sink in for a moment. 25 cents turned into $70,000. So here's your mission. Check those coin jars. Look through your old rolls. And don't overlook the ordinary, because sometimes ordinary hides the extraordinary. Top 5, we're diving into a seemingly ordinary coin that might just surprise you with its hidden potential. It's the 1986 Washington quarter dollar, a coin you've probably seen hundreds of times. But what if one of those quarters was worth far more than 25 cents? That's right. Some of these 1986 quarters aren't just pieces of change, they're pieces of treasure. And today, we're going to explore why. Now, the Washington quarter is a true American classic. Since 1932, it's proudly carried the image of George Washington on the obverse side, a symbol of leadership, independence, and strength. But by the time we get to 1986, the coin had already gone through several changes behind the scenes. Let's set the scene for the mid-1980s. The U.S. Mint was producing massive quantities of coins to meet national demand. These quarters were struck at multiple mints, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Most people were just using them for everyday purchases, a Coke here, a phone call there. But few realized that hidden among these billions of coins were a handful of rare and extraordinary mistakes. And those are the quarters that collectors lose sleep over. So, what exactly makes a 1986 Washington quarter rare or valuable? It all comes down to 3 key factors: errors, condition, and uniqueness. Let's talk about mint errors first, the unexpected stars of the coin collecting world. While the U.S. Mint has incredibly high standards, no system is perfect, and once in a while, a coin is struck with a flaw that makes it extremely valuable. These mistakes are rare, sometimes barely noticeable to the untrained eye, but to collectors, they're like gold dust. One of the most exciting errors found on 1986 quarters is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank coin isn't properly aligned in the press, resulting in a design that's shifted or partially missing. The more dramatic the shift, especially if the date is still visible, the more collectible it becomes. Coins like this are incredibly eye-catching and unique. Another thrilling error is the double die. Imagine the coin being struck twice, but just slightly off, that results in a doubled image, especially visible on the words "Liberty" and "God We Trust," or the date. These kinds of errors are subtle but powerful, and they can multiply the coin's value several times over. Then, there's the legendary wrong planchet error. Picture this: a 1986 quarter that wasn't struck on a quarter blank at all, but instead on a blank meant for a different coin, maybe a penny or even a foreign coin. The result? A quarter that's lighter, thinner, or even made of a different metal. These off-metal strikes are incredibly rare and highly sought after, but we're not done yet. Even a normal 1986 quarter, no errors, no freak accidents, can still be worth serious money if it's in perfect condition. We're talking about coins that have never been touched by human hands, never been dropped, never circulated. These are called mint state coins, and they're graded on a scale from 1 to 70. Coins that hit MS 67 or higher are extremely rare, especially from this year, and they can bring in big money. The truth is, most 1986 quarters were made for spending, not collecting. So finding one in pristine condition today, decades later, is a serious challenge. That's what makes high-grade 1986 quarters so exciting for collectors. It's like finding a perfectly preserved time capsule. And here's something else for all the collectors watching. The 1986 quarter marked the 200th anniversary of the Statue of Liberty's arrival in New York Harbor. Though not directly reflected in the coin's design, this historic year adds even more charm and context to quarters from that era. Many collectors love tying a coin story to its time in history, and 1986 was a year filled with pride, patriotism, and big moments in America's journey. Now, let's get to the moment you've been waiting for. What happens when all the right conditions come together? A rare minting error, a flawless surface, and a touch of historical significance. Well, the answer just might blow your mind. A 1986 Washington quarter, featuring a dramatic error and preserved in immaculate mint state condition, has been valued at as much as $67,000. Yes, you heard that right. $67,000 for a coin that, on the surface, looks like it belongs in your pocket, but in truth, belongs in a collector's vault or on the auction block at a world-class event. So the next time you're going through spare change, don't dismiss those 1986 quarters too quickly. Examine them closely. Look for doubling, for misalignments, for that shimmering untouched surface. Because buried in that stack of coins could be a true American treasure. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video and want more deep dives into the world of rare coins, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because your next coin discovery could be worth far more than you think. Stay curious, stay sharp, and as always, happy collecting.